Today I will be showing you how to draft and sew this classic knee length A-line skirt with front pockets and an invisible side zipper. To begin, you need to take your skirt block. If you don't have a skirt block, check out my last video where I guide you through the process of making it to your own personal measurements. The link is in the description. Trace your front and back block and make the length as desired. To form the A-line shape, draw vertical lines from each dart point down to the hem. Cut out the dart and up the lines you have just drawn. It's handy to leave a tiny pivot point at the dart tip to align everything, but it's not essential. Twist, aligning the dart point and close up the dart, spreading out the bottom edge. You'll note that on the back I only cut the inner dart. This is because I wanted to keep a dart on the back to keep a nice fit at the waist. You can spread both if you prefer, but as I have quite a large waist to hip ratio, I need the tapering and shape the darts offer. For added flair, extend the hem on the side seams out by 2.5 centimeters and join in a smooth line up the length of the skirt. You can reduce this from anywhere down to 0.5 centimeters depending on how much flair you want. Next, smooth the top and bottom edge. You may want to add paper behind in the gaps and tape it together, or trace onto fresh paper and draw around. The choice is yours. Once done, tidy it up and make sure everything is labelled. To draft the pocket, use your front pattern piece and draw on the dimensions of the complete pocket you desire. If you're unsure how deep to do your pocket, place your phone and ensure it fits inside, or whatever item you usually carry in your pockets. Trace this onto a fresh piece of paper once you are happy. Finally, to finish your pattern, add your seam allowances on every pattern piece. I like to work with a 1.5 centimeter, but you can work with anything. For the hem, I added 3 centimeter to allow myself room for a double fold. Our pattern drafted, we can begin making the garment. I am sewing the skirt in an 8-wale corduroy today. This is a simple black and I've included the link below. You want any stable woven fabric. An A-line skirt is quite flexible and can work for very fluid fabrics for lots of drape in the summer and sturdier heavyweight fabrics like denim and twill. Please note that if you do use a lightweight draping fabric that you may need to omit the pockets. You could replace these with a side seam pocket instead. You'll notice I'm adding my seam allowances directly onto my fabric rather than the paper. It is not an accurate way of doing it this way, but is another option for simpler patterns like this. For lining, I'm using a polyester acetate. This link is also below. Both were purchased from Minerva Crafts. Starting with the pockets, first place the lining and main fabric right sides together and pin around the edges. You're going to sew along the diagonal edge, then the 2 long sides. Because my lining fabric was very slippery, I cut it larger than required and used my main fabric as a measurement guide, trimming away the excess once sewn. For this project I used black thread throughout. You could use a contrast thread for the top stitching if you wanted. Excess lining trimmed. Cut the corner and then turn the right way out and press the edges so that you can't see the lining from the right side. Secure this by top stitching the diagonal edge 1/8 inch from the edge. Keep the measurement of your top stitching consistent throughout the project. Place the pocket on your skirt front right side up. Align the edges and pin into place all the way round. You'll need to do this for both pockets. Sew in place permanently by top stitching 1/8 inch from the long edges, pivoting at the corner. You'll also baste in the seam allowance of the top and side edge. When you pivot at the corner, keep your needle down. Lift your presser foot, pivot your fabric to your new direction, lower your presser foot, then continue sewing. When basting the top and side edge, you can use your regular stitch length if you wish, but ensure you sew well within your seam allowance. The darts are sewn in the back next. For accurate darts, follow my tutorial linked above. It will take you in detail through what they are, how to mark them, and sew them accurately without any hand knotting. Repeat the process on your back lining. Once done, press your darts. I press my darts inwards on my main fabric and outwards on my lining to reduce bulk at the waistline. When pressing corduroy fabric, you may need a pressing cloth to prevent marks being left on the fabric. Alternatively, use a scrap offcut of your fabric. We now attach the front skirt to the back skirt, aligning the side seams and pinning. Mark the bottom of your zipper on one side. We will sew with a base stitch to this mark, then with a regular stitch to the hem. The other side is sewn from waist to hem with a regular stitch length. To begin, increase your stitch length. Do not anchor your stitches by sewing back and forth. Sew down to the zipper mark. Back stitch a few times to secure. Decrease your stitch length back to its regular setting. Then continue down and tie off with back stitches at the bottom. On the opposite side, back stitch at the waist and hem as normal. Press your seams open. You may need a pressing hand for this as your skirt is now a loop. Finish your raw edges open and separate on your side seams. I'm using an overlocker, but you can use a zigzag stitch on your regular machine. We can now insert our zipper. Again, if you're unfamiliar with this process, I recommend checking out my in-depth tutorial below on invisible zippers and how to achieve a flawless finish every time. We begin pinning it in place. I chose not to interface my fabric as it is thick and I did not want my zipper getting stuck in it. Pin only to the seam allowance, then baste in place by hand. Again, you only stitch the seam allowance, don't catch the outer fabric of the skirt. On your machine, swap your regular foot to a regular zipper foot. Refer to your manual if you don't know what this looks like. Sew from the waist down, securing the zipper tape to your seam allowance. Do one side, then switch over and do the other side, in a waist to hem direction again. Always work in the same direction when working with zips. Use a seam unripper and undo your stitches over your zip tape. You will feel where we backstitched as it will be harder to undo. Stop here. We'll now sew this closer to the zipper teeth. Switch to an invisible zipper foot. As before, stitch each side in turn, beginning at the waist downwards, as close to the zipper teeth as you can without catching them. Repeat for the other side. You're left with the perfect invisible zipper. The lining is constructed in a similar manner to the skirt. Right sides together, front aligned to back at the side seam. You must know which side has the zipper on and leave a gap at the top for this. Again, backstitch beginning and end to secure your seams and finish raw edges open. To form the waist, place your main fabric right side out, inside of your lining fabric right side in, so the right sides are touching one another. Start at the zipper with it open and align the waistband edge. Follow this round to the other side. I like to align the side seams and centre points, then the darts, then align between to ensure everything is evenly distributed. Stitch this in place at your machine. Before proceeding, confirm your zipper aligns at the top. Adjust the waistband you've just sewn to make sure they are even if they do not. You have probably gone slightly off in your seam allowance. Understitch this waistline edge. To understitch, you sew 1/8 inch from the seam, placing all the seam allowance below to the same side. This prevents the lining from rolling out on your finished skirt front. Press your waistline edge, rolling it slightly so the lining isn't visible from the right side of the skirt. Trim the excess zipper and we will complete the lining by hand. Pin the lining along the zipper edge inside and fold under the seam allowance. Hand stitch the lining to the zipper tape to secure it permanently. Make sure you don't catch the front of the skirt. The hem is formed on the main fabric by pressing the bottom edge under by 1 cm. Go all the way round. Then press this under again using a 1.5 cm turn, securing with clips or pins. Always press your hem before stitching to get a crisp professional finish with no twisting. Sew this down with just shy of a 1.5 cm hem. Alternatively, you can hand stitch with a herringbone stitch for an invisible finish. The lining can be hemmed the same as the main fabric, but you must first reduce the length so that it isn't visible from the outside. I reduced my lining by approximately 4 cm. I did this because instead of turning it under, I simply ran the raw edge under my overlocker. Both options create a secure hem that will not fray. Use the method you prefer. Our skirt is complete. You are left with a simple A-line skirt. You have patch pockets on the front, an invisible side zipper and a dart at the back for shaping at the waist. This is a classic skirt that will suit all figures and can be made in lots of fabrics and colours. I've already made it again in red. If you have enjoyed today's tutorial, please hit the like button to help me reach others. And hit subscribe if you would like to be notified of future videos. I make sewing tutorials for all abilities, including pattern drafting and sew-alongs. Happy sewing!